99 is kind of my pathway to saying I have a 2025 goal of making 101 grand a month. I did that once so far in 2024.
Ryan Musselman, CEO of Coaches Who Close, has built more than just a catchy name.
We don't try to persuade, we invite. We don't chase leads, we create clients. We don't give pitches, we take auditions. We don't sell offers, we craft experiences. We don't cater to all, we choose who's ready. And we don't do try nows, we accept buy nows.
I think for me, what was critical in this grand scheme of LinkedIn is realizing
You have this approach, and you call it your create a client protocol. Can you describe what that is?
it goes back to the Anthem and kind of us thinking that,
How do you coach somebody to bypass imposter syndrome?
yeah, that's such a great question.
Welcome, Ryan.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been a long time in the planning. I know we've gone back and forth with it, but we made it. We're here.
We did, yeah. And sounds very impressive, Ryan. So, yeah.
You know, when you read that the way that you did the intro, I think to myself, no, I haven't. And then I remember like, oh my gosh, somehow I have. What a journey it's been. And it's a wake up moment. It's a kind of a dream moment. And you know, the funny thing about all this, and I'm sure we'll get into this, is the money is always going to be exciting, but it's the time that I got back and what it's enabled me to do. So a bit of a spoiler alert, but still.
That's great. And actually that perfectly leads into something I wanted to ask you with as we get going here, which is that you did have what sounded like a pretty exciting role there, working with one of the largest cinema chains, trying to bring, YouTube content to the big screen. What made you decide to leave, in essence, corporate America and jump into, your own world, which some could say is scary because people question its own security? What led to that?
An unexpected jump into solopreneurship. So I had no intentions when I mean, of course, no one has any intentions of leaving when they first start a new job. They're in the honeymoon phase with it.
Yeah.
But I had been posting on LinkedIn for a good couple of months before it started to dawn on me that, hey, I might have a business here. And so I was getting audience feedback, audience traction, and about a good 6 to 9 months after I started posting on LinkedIn, I had volume in terms of attention. And I said, I don't know if this LinkedIn hype is as real as everyone says it is. So I'm just going to put out an offer. I'm just going to plant my flag and say, this is what I do. This is who I help. Let's see what happens. Well, I did this and I ended up becoming a ghostwriter for busy coaches, executives who were looking to step into that world. And I found myself writing content for a career coach as one of the first offers. And I went home that day telling my wife that, hey, I know I was at Cinemark today, but someone said they want me to charge them $2,000 to write them a couple of posts per week. And it was a surreal moment because I just didn't, I had closed deals in the corporate world and have a large partnership background, but it's so different when you make your first dollar doing something like that. And it was a $2,000 invoice that I sent. And when it went through, it just took me a little bit to process. So it was because I stumbled into it is the real answer. And it's
What
because
was
of
that
building that
offer?
content model.
Like, can you tell us a little bit more about that offer itself on LinkedIn? Was it a simple post? Did you have a funnel? Like, what exactly was that?
Yeah, very, very interesting. So I had updated my profile to just kind of speak to, I help people really begin to think about a content strategy that draws attention to whatever product or service you want to offer. And it was very, like, when I look back on it now, it's a very cringy kind of way to write that, which I think is usually common when we create content, right? We think at the time, oh, this is golden, it's going to do well. We look back on it 6 months later and it's like, oh my gosh, how did I actually post that? So I posted that, and then I started creating content that basically said, I'm going to help you get from this undesirable situation to this desirable situation. And I had multiple people reach out. One guy who wanted to book a call saying he'd been working with a LinkedIn agency that was designed to help him do the same, but they weren't bringing him any revenue. Well, within the first 21 days of working with this person, he closed 5K in deals. And I still to this day don't know necessarily how he did it because I was so new at the time when I look back on it now. But that was part of the process, is really just saying, kind of like you think like a home that's for sale. You see a for sale sign up front. People see that. They like the house. They inquire with the realtor. Bada bing, bada boom. It's done. Same thing kind of happens online. We think we need to do all these crazy things. I just said, for sale, let's go. Obviously, I'm simplifying it a little bit, but that was really part of the process, is to kind of put an offer out there and see if your existing audience bites.
That's amazing. I think that other piece of it too sometimes is that action, for lack of a better way to put it, because so many of us, I know Art and I have also been here, as is like, people have that idea or they know what they should do, but they don't even do it. So that person who engaged you, it's like you were actually able to do the thing that they knew would probably help their business. But obviously you had grown somewhat of a skill around this if people were seeing this and you had trust with people. So I'm curious, at that time that you did it, what was your following on LinkedIn? Like, did you have a big, and how often were you posting too?
Yeah, at the time I was posting 5 days per week. And
Okay.
I've seen the gamut of content strategy. I used to post 3 times per day. Can you believe that? 3 times per day. And the idea there was 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, then 1 at like 2 a.m. that I set to this auto scheduler to try to take advantage of other people around the world. So for me, it was really just trying to maintain some type of volume. Now, I've completely backed off of that. I think the best content strategy is the one you can maintain. And sticking to that is mission critical. And then decide how you're going to branch out from there, and just do it slowly. Don't do it in a way where you have a honeymoon phase with content. You launch a whole bunch of content on all these different platforms, and then you find yourself burnt out 30 days later. It just doesn't work.
Ryan, what is your take on, because there's so many thoughts on LinkedIn, as Michael and I have been kind of in and out of it for the last year or so. There's this notion of niche down and find your niche. And then somebody says, actually, no, just talk about what you love. Like, what is your take if somebody's starting to try to, in that, baby steps at first, what type of content should they be creating?
Yeah, I've seen both work. So I think the encouraging answer is both work, niching down or staying broad, right? Here's a broad example. What is Tony Robbins' niche? And it's going to be anyone with a heartbeat, right? That wants to change their life, right? But then you've got individual. I knew this guy, I think his name was Michael, and he would tell you, you better niche down to an uncomfortable degree. And he focused on ads for early stage startups that drove people to landing pages. And so he got really specific with that. I can't remember the specific niche he was going, but you had to be early stage, certain amount of people, certain amount of revenue, and so on. So he got very prescriptive with it, and he was making like $100,000 a month. Another example, this one dude was booking dental appointments, virtual dental appointments. He had 1,800 followers, making $20,000 a month. Mind blowing. It's just like, that's crazy. So both work. The one that I subscribe to is the problem. Put out the problem that you solve, and the people who have that problem, who are attracted to that problem, who are attracted from going from undesirable state to desirable state, those are going to be the ones who reach out to you. And it doesn't mean you don't qualify them further, right? You want to know, like, what are they currently making in revenue? What do they believe is a good amount to invest in fixing the problem? What have they done in the past to fix the problem? What are they doing today to fix the problem? So you're still gating along those lines, but it does allow for a little bit more of a broad approach. I only work with coaches. Sometimes it's a consultant coach, right? So they serve more B2B companies. So some of my methods apply there, but I really aim for coaches. If I ever went down to like a very specific niche level, it would probably be career coaches or business coaches, but I haven't had a need to do that yet. So I can serve multiple people in the coaching genre, so long as they want to build a hybrid group program with a one-to-one program and so on.
Interesting. That makes me want to ask you about what I've heard you speak to before, which is the 99. Because sounds like even in your own right, when you're looking at the customers you might take on, you're also saying there's a certain number of customers that you might take on. Is that correct? Is that what 99 is?
Yeah, the 99 is kind of my pathway to saying I have a 2025 goal of making $101,000 a month. I did that once so far in 2024. I'd like to make it a more consistent thing in 2025. And my theory is that I can do that with 99 coaches or less. So as of this time, I unmodded another 4. I'm about at 50 right now. But what's cool about that is, going back to what I was saying at the beginning of the podcast, it only takes me about an hour per day, sometimes less than an hour per day, to actually fulfill this. And it's because when you set up the right group model with the right fluidity, the right automations, the right service model, you're actually able to serve more people with less time and more powerfully. meaning you're getting a desired result from them and they're getting the desired result that they intended to get when they got into your program. So it's an amazing model. And I know real quick, people say, okay, it's a group model, group coaching doesn't work for me. That may be true for some people, but I would encourage them to take a deeper look. Group coaching is way better than one-to-one because you can see John over here who's crushing it, Kathy over here who may be a little bit behind. They can cross over. There's the rising of tides, the sharing of information, the centralized hub of powerful mind share. And when that works in sync together, people get results. People go from discouraged to confident to closing. And that is so critical to understand. But when you can do that in a model that allows you to add as many people as you want, things don't break, all the better.
That's great. And having been involved in some of those things myself, I can say that mind share, especially because sometimes, for me, at least at times, there's the accountability aspect that could also be good when you're in there. Or it's the fact that people sometimes don't feel comfortable asking, this person, maybe you seem like an approachable person, but they might feel like they don't want to look dumb asking this, but they'll go to a peer because they've built that relationship with them and it helps them continue to move forward. But are those 99, when you talk group coaching, is that 99 in a group coaching, or do you break those out into subgroups as well?
So I've got the 99 and then I've got the 9. So think of the 99 as individuals who are in the group model. They can accomplish everything that someone would want to accomplish if they were a part of the 9. And the 9 would be the one-to-one. So you got the 99, and out of that, I'm extracting the 9. People who want to have my cell phone and be able to contact me Monday through Thursday for whatever reason relative to their business. Think both can fast track you, but the people who like want to go on those moving sidewalks at the airport when they're, late to their flight and they're like walking on the walking sidewalk, that's what the 9 is for. So we can just speed that up. You can get answers faster, you can iterate quicker, and you can go to market testing a lot of things much quicker.
That's great. I love the way that you describe that with the visual. Those ones also on that, not the escalator, what'd you call it again?
Moving sidewalk.
Moving sidewalk, yeah. Those ones also can go a lot further because they're expending less energy too. So
yeah.
I like it. I want to ask more about how some of that works in a minute, but there's something else that I thought was pretty incredible that you have as part of your business, Coaches with Clothes. It's your Anthem. And I'm just going to read it here because I didn't want to butcher it. But basically, the way you approach customers there, you don't want to try to, or your business, you don't want to try to persuade. Well, let me just read it exactly. We don't try to persuade, we invite. We don't chase leads, we create clients. We don't give pitches, we take auditions. We don't sell offers, we craft experiences. We don't cater to all, we choose who's ready. And we don't do try nows, we accept buy nows. That sounds like the dream. So I'm just curious because really the way you shape that, I'll admit for me, it's like, gosh, that's how I'd like to approach, but that's probably because the part of me that also doesn't like sales and would rather always, back Art and I, we sold women's shoes together. I can never tell something to somebody that wasn't true. Like I like to just say, here's what it is. Are you interested? If so, let's work together. But has it always been that way for you? And is that Anthem 100% true for you?
Yeah, that Anthem is the result of sales pandering, which makes me feel so dumb. It's just so ridiculous. And I define sales pandering as me stepping out, trying to persuade, convince, have a silver tongue, use any type of manipulation tactics. But I'm not saying unethical, but you're trying to kind of be like, it's the guy who's like, I told you so, it just gives you this mindset of, this is why I think people hate sales. They think that they have to just be so suave, so on the ball. And then internally what's happening there is that if someone says no, we get offended. No matter how often we try to say we don't get offended, we get personally offended because it hurts when people say no. We want people to say yes. We want everyone to say yes. And so what we do is we start trying to convince people right away. We pander to them. We break rules of ours that we wouldn't break, meaning we work with clients we know we shouldn't work with. And we are now getting on their timetable. We're now getting on their demands. We're now using their communication protocols. We're now adjusting to their schedule. None of that is scalable. And even if it was scalable, it's not fun. It's like being in a room where you don't want to be there for a second longer because of the person who's in the room. They just don't vibe with you. They don't see the eye to eye to you that you need to see, eye to eye with you that they need to see. They have that kind of tension behind them. So I don't want to work with those types of clients anymore. And then I contrast that. I think about the people who said, I'm in, and I had to ask one time, meaning maybe they were on a workshop with me. I was able to serve them powerfully. We got on a follow-up call and I asked them, how do you feel about continuing this in Coaches Who Close? And this is from Nathan, one of my clients. He said, I'd like that. And that was the entire part. The sales call lasted for about 14 seconds, even though the entirety of the call was about 25 minutes long. But the sales part was 14 seconds, and it was me just inviting him to continue doing what he had experienced. He said yes, paid same day. One of the best people I've ever worked with. I have so much respect for this person. And then it happened again and again and again and again. And if it happens one time, that was sufficient. But because it's happened like 10 times, 20 times, 100 times, now it's just like, okay, what if I could only ever find those people? How would I need to think, act, and be in order to get that? That's where that Anthem comes from. I'm looking for those in the world. And the final point there is that I'm betting more on my proven ability to find, close, and coach those people than my ability to convince the maybe high maintenance client to be a yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Did you make specific changes? Because you said, I think, act, be. Did you make specific changes to your approach or the funnel? Like, is there a last mile or something they need to fill out where you're like, okay, I know this one's going to be that type of person?
Yeah, I'm really just asking great questions in advance. So it usually comes in the context of a free or a paid workshop or some type of tentpole event. Could be a speaking opportunity, or it could even be a podcast like this, where the more someone spends time with you in the environment, the business context that they need to spend time with you, then the more likely they are going to buy from you, right? Very, very simple of taking someone who's familiar to being cold, to being warm, to being hot, to being a yes client. So I think for me, what was critical in this grand scheme of LinkedIn is realizing that the whole echo chamber of organic only, ads are the bad guys, don't use PDFs or don't use all these types of lead magnets, nothing works anymore, screw cold email, right? All of the condemning of practices. If you just take a step back and say content is great, it's kind of like the front mat on the porch. What I found is that if you have a live pre-buy experience, that's what I call my create a client protocol, where you can actually educate someone. They can hear your voice, they can see your eyes, there can be an exchange of information. The more you have that with people, the more it enables those really good yes clients to get an invitation to continue that. So for me, that was the biggest change of realizing it's not always going to be about going from content to sold. In fact, the more expensive your offer is, the less likely you're going to go from content to sold or ad to sold. You need to have something in the middle that allows them to walk over the bridge to your offer. Otherwise, you're asking them to swim across an ocean.
I love your metaphors. I have to ask then, in this scenario, when you are having, whatever that activity, live event, that brings them to, you haven't leaned into like anything evergreen at this point then, or any sort of free course, or do you do some of that as part of your, lack of a better way to put it?
Yeah, I do that in different content formats. So there could be a live free workshop. There can be content posts. There can be pre-recorded lead magnets. So I still do that for the sake of at least starting a conversation. The whole mission there is to just get the conversation started, because then I'll know over time, through experience, through interaction with the people who buy into that, so long as they're in the right region, they have the right mindset, they've at least done some work to get to some point, those people will show themselves. And they're the ones who are just, they show up, they're ready to buy, and they're ready to do the work. They're expecting you to be their guide, not their savior. They understand the business context they're stepping into is, I need to do these things and hold my own self accountable. Those are wonderful people to work with. And those are the ones who I know that they're going to go on to bigger and better things and look back on this and say, oh, that was a positive experience.
So you have this approach and you call it your create a client protocol. Can you describe what that is?
Yeah, really, it goes back to the Anthem and kind of us thinking that, all right, I have to convince all these people to join. And if I'm going to get anyone to join, I need lead volume. I need lots of lead volume. I need lots of content volume. I have to do all of these different things with all of these different funnels, have all of these different sales conversations, and write all of these different posts. And before you know it, before you've even typed a letter on a page, you're overwhelmed and you're scared. So you're starting from a place of serious doubt in your ability and without any clarity or focus. So create a client is really my protocol for saying, let's get the right people in the right room on purpose to teach them one simple objective. And that objective is not baked into you trying to sell them on the call. It's you being free to teach something powerfully to someone so that they actually learn something that helps them get started. It doesn't mean you're giving away the castle you built, but it does mean you're changing their perspective through a counterintuitive teaching, through reflection exercises, and then finally through invitation. And when you can get someone in a room to help them understand how to think, to really demonstrate to them why something matters, you're serving them powerfully. Or said another way, you're creating a client. And when it comes to buy time decisions, getting that right with the right client usually leads to that client wanting to do something with you, right? Whether that's a 6-month term, a 3-month term, or maybe you have a special and it's a 1-month term. So the idea there is you're creating a client by getting them into a room where you can serve them powerfully, really truly teach them something. Sometimes I get onto one of these create a client protocols and I literally tell them, you can buy nothing from me on this call. I am selling you nothing on this call. You're in a free environment. All you have to do today is learn. And you know what that does? It just lowers the defenses. It gets more hand raisers in there to ask questions. It gets more people interacting. And then the invitation comes afterwards through what other mechanism? Email, DM, chat, voice message, phone call, and so on. So create a client really is built on that premise of serve them with great intent, and in return, you'll see that great intent. And it doesn't mean you give away the castle to get there.
Yeah. Ryan, can you kind of double click on that a little bit and tell us how actually you get people in that room, in that free room?
Yeah. The same way you get them to buy from you is the same way you get them in the room. Invitation. So that can be an affordable workshop where they're coming in and getting a deep benefit that helps them get to, at least do step 1 of step 3, right? Or it can be a free invitation. And if it's a free invitation, you just need to make sure that people are applying to get into the room. And I usually do that. I leverage urgency and scarcity, and I stay true to them. So for example, last week I did a workshop and it was free for 20 people. And you had to apply to get in. And so once I hit the 20, I made no exceptions, right? Even if there could have been another 10 people qualified to get into the room, I just wanted to serve 20 people. And multiple of them have already become clients. So it's just critical concept to understand that rather than try to persuade or cold DM or whatever, get a conversation going that leads to an invitation. Conversations plus invitation is conversion.
It's funny, as you say that, it's like, that sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But I obviously know that there's a lot of complexities to somebody's approach and how they get there and how they're engaging to start with. And I think that's some of the art that obviously comes out of your conversations or working with you. And I'm curious, so I feel like the offer is an area where a lot of people who aspire to, dive more into this struggle a bit with. And part of it ties back to what Art was saying earlier about the idea of even niching and should you and where do you go? Because, your offer is a component of, who you're speaking to. So I'd just be curious to hear a little bit more about like how you approach shaping or helping some of your clients shape that offer. By the way, do you call them clients, students? Like what do you in your world? What
yeah, clients, coaching clients. I'm pretty standard with that. Pretty boring. Nothing there. Ultimately, I call them the 99 because it has a little bit more of an elite term to it. But the offer is most critical. If you get the offer wrong, the content is wrong, the landing page is wrong, the sales call is wrong, the offer doc is wrong, everything is wrong. And often what happens is people hear the echo chamber of LinkedIn advice, sell the transformation, don't sell the features, right? Sell the transformation. And really what that means is sell an irresistible offer, right? Maybe they read Alex Hormozi's book and they're like, okay, I need an irresistible offer that promises something big and has a guarantee. And that's usually where people get stuck or scared or confused and ambiguity sets in. I don't subscribe to that. I don't subscribe to selling the transformation, at least not only. What I teach my clients to do is sell the pathway that leads to the transformation. So if my goal is to get you to 50K months, what needs to be true along the way for you to actually get there? What problem do I need to solve for checkpoint 1? And what do I need to replace it with? Well, in my offer, I need to make you compelling, right? If you're compelling, you'll be able to create constant lead flow. You'll be able to curate them with the right protocols, and you'll be able to maintain all of this on the foundation of a clear offer. People are just naturally going to be attracted to your offer. And when we get that right, someone solves the bad lead flow problem. They're able to get 20 leads per month whenever they want. It becomes an optional, a dial to them. I can turn this up. If I want 40, I'll get 40. If I want 5, I'll get 5. If I want 20, I'll get 20. So we enable choice. That's checkpoint 1. If we can get leads, what do we need to do next? Naturally, we need to convert them. So we go from being compelling to being converting. If you're converting leads to clients, now you're stabilizing your revenue. This is where I help coaches make their first 5 figures per month, right? So if we're compelling and we're converting, then we need to be coaching. Said another way, delivering for our clients. So we have them inside a coaching enterprise that is fluid, that's automated, that's easy to sustain, that doesn't break when we add more and more and more based on however we scale. Right now, I can serve, like I was telling you, roughly 50 clients in about an hour per day, Monday through Thursday. So if I add 50 more, it's probably not even going to add another hour to the day because they're good clients who do the work and they know they don't need me to save them because they already are getting the mindset and the tools to implement. So we compel, we convert, and we coach. And when someone can do those things, they're now on the pathway to those 50K months. But what I just described to you there was checkpoints. So if you're now able to sell to 20 people per month or more, great, lead flow is solved, checkpoint number 1. If you're able to convert a certain percentage of those, maybe you start off at a 20% conversion rate, or maybe you start off at a 10% conversion rate, then you get to a 20, then to a 35 to 45. Amazing. Now you've stabilized your revenue, and you just need to do more of those 2 things. But the final portion of that is if you're coaching and delivering for those clients, now you're not only sustaining them inside an MRR container, but you're able to upsell them inside that container itself. Now you're on the pathway to 50K months. But if I just said, I'm going to put you on the pathway to 50K months, trust me, I've done this for multiple clients. And yeah, I'm going to help you with lead flow, right? Not saying I'd say it sloppily like that, but if I don't explain, if I don't lock arms with you, hand you a flashlight and say, we're going to walk through this dark territory, but I'm going to show you every step of the way. And when we get there, here's what the destination is going to look like. And then when we get to this destination, this mountain peak, we're actually going to be able to see over this next mountain peak. And then we're going to walk through this valley. It's going to be a little dark, but I'll show you the lights every way. And then finally, when we get to that peak, we can see this final destination of where we really want to go. So that's how we think about selling the transformation. Final point here, it makes people feel safe. Hey, I know everyone talks about get people to know you, like you, and trust you, and you'll sell. Sure, that's true, I guess. But make people feel safe along the pathway that they're going to walk to the destination they need to get to. And you're going to have a safe buyer considering your buying process. You're going to have someone with a safe mindset that is feeling safe because of how you outlined it to them. And that is just so powerful, man, especially in a world where we've got options, we've got content, we've got noise, and it's everywhere.
I also assume, again, the higher the price goes, the more that roadmap becomes that thing. Cause it's like, you could see it instead of somebody, promising whatever it is for you. And I forget what it was I was listening or reading lately that was talking about how, people, if you tell somebody, what was it, $1 million ahead, the idea is that most people are like, yeah, right, whatever. I don't trust this person, whatever it is, which is sometimes the transformation that some people are promising. But if you say roads out ahead, go right, people want to avoid, the potential problem and other things, along those lines. So it's had me think about a little bit of that transformation, especially because most people aren't going to trust that the $1 million is on the other side. So I like what you convey there, because it literally does say, at least again, for somebody like me, oh, I could see how I'm getting there. It's like almost checkpoints too, that help that you're getting to that progress. Do you offer any sort of a guarantee with your product, or no, because you have that roadmap instead gains that peace of mind?
Yeah, the roadmap is definitely there to help with that. The only reason I don't offer a guarantee, and why I would discourage my clients from doing that, is because you can show people how to do things all day long. You can give them the best tools, the best resources, the best of your time, the sweetest spots of it. Yeah. And sometimes people just won't do the work. Or I'm not handling the sales calls for them. So I can show them what's worked for me and what I've used to make it work for other clients. But sometimes you just get people who don't execute well, or they take longer to execute the right way. So it's hard to guarantee. There creates too many variables, too many liabilities. And just based on where someone is at previously from their career, the context is so different. So if there were more controllable variables, then I'd be offering guarantees all day. But because the variables are just too far out of control, I think it's too risky for someone to do.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes those guarantees are, I don't want to call them less trustworthy, but I know sometimes what people will put in there is they'll put, yes, you can't, because they're counting on the percentages of people who won't bother with that, or they'll say you got to take, X steps in order to do so. But I have been mixed, because I'll admit sometimes that guarantee, though, for me, when I see it, you're like, well, I guess. But again, it's like, I'm trying to think at stores. Southwest always cracks me up. They give you the, oh yeah, if you can't take your flight, here's a voucher. Then later you're like, well, the voucher was like something digitally maybe that was emailed, or I got to remember my thing. And it's like you never actually follow through with it.
Yeah.
I was going to kind of backtrack a little bit, and I think Michael and I have fallen into this trap as well. I know I have for sure, where a combination of imposter syndrome and also the idea of delivering value is so front and focus, where now you overdo it, or you try to overdo it, whether it's a online course or a live seminar, something. And then in preparation for it, you just become your own bottleneck because you're trying to do so much just to show value. How do you coach somebody to bypass imposter syndrome and not to make something bigger than it is? Because when I tell somebody, stop doing those 10 things, just teach them that one thing. But then when it comes to me, I'm trying to teach them 10 things. I can't take my own advice.
Yeah, that's such a great question, and so timely too. I just covered that this week with my clients, and I basically just put what I call it, like extracting the truth of the situation. And what I was explaining to someone, and I think this would be really helpful for the listeners to understand and actually offer some real feelings of like, hey, this is actually doable for me as well. So like when we're selling online, if we're really trying to get coaching clients, like at the end of the day, we're just trying to put one really good offer in front of one really qualified buyer. And the more we do that with those qualified buyers, the more we scale that, the more we're going to sell. So that old saying holds true, sales is a numbers game. I realize how cliche we've said that, but it's still true, and it will never not be true. So if that's all we need to do, then really we can get to $500,000 in sales with one funnel or one protocol. And all we're really doing is getting better and better and better at that protocol, meaning we're automating it where we can. We're increasing the volume of the leads with that protocol where we can. We're increasing the frequency of that protocol where we can. On the back end, we're selling with other variables, access to you, right? Can allow you to raise your price or keep it at the same level. Time in your program, free month, right? Or a limited edition, longer edition. All of those things, price included, all of those things factor in together, but you can do them with one protocol. And to the degree that you enhance the efficiency of that protocol in terms of volume and frequency will be the degree that you add more and more revenue. And if you only did that, you're not going to care about anything else. All right, let me supplement this a little bit further. I don't have a website. Well, I have a domain, but it's not a website. It's just a website for you to sign up to my email. And I've never sold with a website. I don't do a lot of ads. I believe in them. I've tried like one really big ad protocol before. It's something that I want to add. I don't do cold messaging, but I believe in it. I've hired people to now go out and do it, and they're starting to build out that process, but I'm not doing it right now. So I've built my audience organic only, but I'm not going to tell you do things organic only because I just don't believe in that. But so far on LinkedIn, the smallest of the social platforms out there, and I have 65,000 followers, yes, but in the grand scheme of the creator economy, I am a little tiny itty bitty baby. Right? The monsters are on LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram and so on. Monsters meaning large audience sizes. But with my little tiny account on LinkedIn, dominantly organic only, I've been able to build a $500,000 coaching business in about 16 months. So if I can do that, everyone else can as well. I've had one funnel the whole time. Now what happens if I just scale that funnel and really add it to the outbound messaging, to the paid ads messaging, and so on? So just get it right in one area and then begin to branch out and scale. But if you get it right in one area, you may question, do I even need to do that? You may say that 20K per month is perfect for me. That's all I want to get to. You can do that on LinkedIn with one funnel. You can do that on TikTok with one funnel, YouTube on, so on. So that's really what I'm saying in all of this is, at the end of the day, you're just taking one really good offer and you're putting it in front of as many qualified buyers as you can. And to the degree that you can do that more and more and more every single month over time, you are going to close deals.
I want to go back to what you just said with the 16 months, because that's pretty incredible to get where you are at now. And it sounds like, has that been 16 months since you started this particular offer? Was that 16 months since you left your job, your previous job?
Yeah, great question. So I started posting on LinkedIn in 2022, no offer. Come 2023, right basically in January of 2023 is when I started ghostwriting. Then I would ghostwrite for another 9 months. And then right in October of 2023 is when I started doing one-to-one coaching. And I did that for about 90 days. And at that point is when I was scaling to the highest I scaled there was 45K. And that 45K came in January of 2024. At the end of January in 2024, I started doing my group programs. And the first one was a content engine. And then fast forward, good 5 months later, and now it's Coaches Who Close. So that program evolved. So it's really 2024 where I've seen about 450K in new revenue alone. So, I left Cinemark in July of 2023, and we just passed July about 2 months ago. So in that time, when I look at Kajabi, it shows as 550K in revenue earned.
Wow, incredible.
Yeah.
And I'm curious there too, because you mentioned as you started with, ghostwriting, you didn't really have a deep background in that area though, right? Did you do anything to learn it right away, or did you just feel you had a knack for it? I mean, obviously, as you say, you look back now, you're like, who was that guy? Because you've gotten better at what you do. But how?
Yeah, and that's what's crazy about it. So going back to what I said at the very beginning about niches, I picked my niche by picking the problem. And that came after changing my niche 10,000 times. So anyone in the audience who's hearing this, who's changing their niche 10,000 times, you and I are much better friends, and we probably have a great time over a beer or coffee together. So I had always been told throughout most of my career, hey, you have a way of articulating things very well. You speak very clear, you write very well. But I wasn't creating content. It was just internal emails, right? Articulating something. So I remembered that. And when I started creating content in April of 2022, I started growing at a much better pace than I ever have on any other social platform before. And I was just teaching people how to write clearer content and do it with less words. So it started to take off. And 9 months later, when I started ghostwriting, I basically said, could I do this for people as a living? And I didn't have an offer. So I asked my friend, Matt Barker, he's a larger content creator. I said, can you send me your offer? I just copied his offer into a Word doc and used that as my first offer. That was it. I didn't even know how to create an offer for myself, right? I knew how to create it for a Cinemark or for any other company that I've been at because I had a frame of reference based on the business context of the company. But when you get into doing it for yourself, it is so weird and different to create an offer for yourself. So I just copied my friends and turned it into an offer, and it sold, which I think could be encouraging for a lot of people to think about. Like, right. There's not a lot of brain power that went into my first offer. It was me getting a Word document for someone else, changing a few things around, shipping it. It was really ugly. So that's how I got into it. It's just a stumbled kind of, hey, you're pretty good at this. So
yeah. That's great. Sometimes copying things initially, especially get out of your own way. Cause that's something where Art and I, again, we have struggled as we've known each other for a long time through different things. It's like, it's easy to give the advice sometimes and look at somebody else's, but like in our own, we get in your own ways around it. And it's like, we want to constantly, second guess into everything there, but it's like, yeah, okay. If there's something that you can model that you could use, then do so, which makes me curious again about how you approach your clients, because right now, as you mentioned, a lot of the stuff you're able to do about an hour a day. Do you have a program that they go through, or is it more of like, is there a set of videos, or is it SOPs, or this is what you do? Like, how do they get the guidance?
Yeah. So I do a live session every week with my clients, and we run for about 2 hours in that live session. And it's normally because we're just staying on longer to answer questions. So in many cases, it's a new training. In other cases, it's an implementation session of a previous training. It's not that my clients need more information. It's that they need to have the information that they have and use it to the best of their ability. This goes back to supporting what I was saying earlier about just having one funnel and making it better over and over and over again. So the model there is there's general questions that take place, there's a live training that takes place, or there's kind of this office hours element where we're just doubling down on the training we've already learned. And that's what really allows the time scale to take shape. So they're watching the recorded versions of those live sessions. They're showing up live, and then they're able to watch that recording. And I label it really well. I make sure it's new curriculum so that if someone is new and they come in, they already have that database of recording. But I don't position it as selling a course. I'm still selling live coaching.
Yeah, I get it.
It's just that it allows someone to ramp up faster.
That makes sense. And is this all through your school community, or
right.
is that just okay? Got it. And how long have you been leveraging school?
I started using school in February of 2024.
Okay, got it. And with that now, are you pretty happy with it? Or I know everybody with communities, oftentimes there's always back and forth, but I've heard some good things about school.
I love it. And I don't use it in the traditional sense of like I'm trying to build and scale a community where there's a free section and a paid section. I only have it for the 99. So the level of person that's in that room is just astronomically different. And I have a bunch of like-minded people in the same enterprise working towards similar goals with similar challenges and so on. So you can imagine, like we were talking about earlier, that mind share, the rising of the tides in the room is crazy. And my clients think they're learning a lot from me. I'm actually learning a lot from my own clients. So the compounding effect of doing it like that is so critical. I don't think I'll ever have a free component of my offer where someone can come in for free and be mixed in with my clients. I just think that would be a disservice to my pre-existing clients.
I know some people in the school communities will do it almost like, I don't want to say a graduate, but it's like, okay, here's the free stuff. A lot of people there, but you don't get as much of the support. But it's the way that they'll use, almost like, a live event in some, or it's almost like email these days. Like here, you're, this is how we can communicate and have access to you. And it's another way to sort of position. You had another community beforehand that was, I think, was it Sales Signal?
Yeah. Sales Signal.
What happened to that community?
Yeah. So I scaled that to about 110 in that group coaching program. And that program was specifically about leveraging AI or a content engine to build your brand and monetize it. And the reason why I retired that is, well, a couple of reasons. One, I had it on the wrong model. So it wasn't something that ultimately could scale long-term. Two, the subject matter, in my opinion, needed a few things bolted onto it. It's one thing to have really good content, but go back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast. Having good content on the foundation of a crystal clear offer, that's the compounding effect that we need. And having crystal clear content on the foundation of a crystal clear offer without a sales protocol, a conversion protocol, and a delivery protocol really kind of has another gap. So that's why I kind of changed and I chose not to merge it. I chose to start from ground zero once again, and it proved to be the right call. I was scared to do that because I had 110 people in a container, but I also felt like it would be misleading if I would change the business model of the offer. So I said, all right, I'm going to take the blow. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to bolt on these other things. Anyone who wants to come along, awesome. Anyone who doesn't, totally understand. I'm also going to go out and find new yes clients. And so that's what happened. And it's been the best decision I've made on the business side of it, though it was a very uncomfortable time to make that decision because Sales Signal sold really, really well.
But you're happy with the decision.
So happy because I took Sales Signal and now it's a full-blown module inside of Coaches Who Close. So I was still able to sell Sales Signal just in a whole new way. And that allowed other people to come in and get the full experience so they could get rid of kind of the feast and famine protocols that they've been used to.
Okay. Interesting. You mentioned Google and you mentioned Kajabi. What else is part of your tech stack?
ActiveCampaign, Zoom, and OBS. That's like the big stuff for me. And you can call ChatGPT as well, because I have basically a content engine that if you don't ever want to write your own posts again, you can have a content engine do it that writes it like me. And you can also adjust that content engine to make it write like you. So that's why Sales Signal sold so well. It's because I deleted the pain of saying, what do I post? Or why do my current posts suck? So I just replicated myself in AI, which sounds kind of weird to say, but replicated myself in AI, worked really well. Now, I had people closing a lot of deals from that because they had a pre-existing offer and they could just plug it in and save their time. So that's really the kind of evolution that took shape.
Nice. And with that, do you still then is some of that AI component part of your current program, or is that still something that for those who want to go further into that you offer?
Yeah, it really is. I took what I built with Sales Signal and just advanced it. Previously, it was just about writing like content, so story-based content, sales content, and so on. And now I've advanced it to write your landing page, your checkout page, your 3-page
Yeah, awesome.
offer document, new conversion content, hooks, story hooks. So it's really been partitioned into all of these different assets. And then I add new GPTs over time that lessen the burden of content creation. And now it's becoming just a full-blown kind of suite of great content that you can now leverage so you can focus on more important matters of the business.
That's great. Would you ever sell that as an individual tool, do you think?
That's what Sales Signal was. I don't do it anymore, but I am looking at a new model of doing that. Maybe like one of the GPTs as a one-off in a workshop. So yeah, I've started to think about that again now that Coaches Who Close is really stabilized and is in scale mode.
I get it though. I understand it a little bit better now. As we have a few more minutes left here, just, a couple more questions to throw your way. Just curious for you, what particular strengths do you feel made you good at entrepreneurship? Because you're really good based on the timing of what we said, or really lucky depending on who wants to. Yes, but I'd say really good.
Yeah, for me, it's being able to take very difficult concepts, information, and ideas and simplify them as if I was teaching a 5th grader. That's the feedback that I've gotten. That's not me guessing. So the constant feedback that I receive is you articulate information in a way where I can hear it, I can grasp it, and I can take action with it. And because of that, people can now rethink the hard, parlay that to the easy, and make progress faster. And so it compounds because now people are feeling safer. They're feeling more understood. They're more understanding of what they need to do. And that allows them to take action faster and do it more efficiently. So now that people can do that, it's kind of like a conveyor belt, although I say that carefully because I don't want people to think that I think of my clients as machines, but rather I think of them as wonderful people with great ambitions who need the machines around them to accelerate faster. So that's been the biggest thing for me. And when I can do that inside a specific protocol, such as a workshop, where you get to look into my eyes, you get to hear my voice, you get to receive my instruction, then it becomes more and more powerful. It becomes high converting because the invitation is take what you've learned today. And if you'd like to work on this together, join me. And if not, that's okay too. But at least you have a jumping off point.
Is there a big mistake that you've made over the course of, again, I'll just say these 16 months right now, as you've been obviously growing this business and on track for, your 101,000, which, by the way, why 101,000? And then what's a mistake that you wish you hadn't made that you could give us any advice around?
Yeah. On the mistake front, and I hope people hear this really well, is that we think we need to be constantly learning. And there's an element of that that's true. But here's where it gets into dangerous waters. And this is what I experienced for myself. I thought I had to be constantly buying to learn. So constantly buying into this coaching program and then this coaching program and this coaching program and this one-to-one program. So what happened was I got access to too much information. Therefore, the execution got crossed because this coach said this, but then there's a variation of what this coach said here. And so I'm getting great information, but I'm not getting great execution. It's like going to a library with volumes and volumes of proven work and then reading a magazine and not reading what you needed to read, or no magazine and you're just reading in the fictional section and then the non-fictional section, then the historical, then literature, then poetry. And while there's great elements in all of those, you're now trying to match all of these different things. You're trying to stick clay to iron, and then you're trying to, weld on the bronze or whatever it is, the copper, and so on. So it leads to this really kind of dysfunctional execution. So I'd say be careful of that. Often, if you buy into a program with great social proof, you've trusted the coach, you feel safe along the pathway, you've seen what they can do, then lean into that person. Lean into that person. Really give it 90 days of concerted trial and error with the proper feedback and so on. Then in terms of the 100K, I just wanted to do 101. It's not a number that I needed. It's a number that I wanted. In terms of the 99, I just felt like it's a number that I really wanted. And I just thought it sounded cool. There's no science to it at all. And I believe I'll do it with less than 99. Like, I think I'll be able to do it roughly 70-ish to 75 based on the model I'm working at. But to me, it sounds cool. And I got the idea of speaking like that from Dan Sullivan. Have you guys ever read any of his books?
Yeah. Yep.
So he has this book. It's one of my favorite books that I've ever read, called 10X is Easier Than 2X. And he says in this book how we're programmed to do things based on need because of the question that gets asked to us in advance when we want something. For example, Michael, why do you feel that you need to do this podcast? Okay. You're being given a presumption. That presumption is that, Michael, you needed to do this podcast. Your answer to me is, Ryan, I don't need to do this podcast. I want to do this podcast. And I wanted this podcast because I want to get these clients. I want to reach this audience. I want to help this person. I want to serve these people. We think that we need to do things out of need, right? Reality, sometimes we just want to do something because we want to do it. So for me, I want to have 99 or less clients, and I want to make $101,000 per month, and then decide what I want to do next. Do I need to do that? No. I could survive off of 50K or 20K, whatever it is. I just want to do it. And there's no other complex answer to it other than it's just out of want. And there's a lot of freedom in that. That's why I say there's a lot of freedom in that.
No, that's great. Well, I love it. I will say 99 feels exclusive. 101 feels like it makes it intriguing that much more. And I love that you have these numbers around each. For anybody who wants to reach out to you, contact you, what's the best way for them to get in touch?
Connect with me on LinkedIn.
Sounds great. See, he makes it really easy. There's the funnel. There's that.
I will make sure we'll link out to Ryan's LinkedIn in the description.
And we could have. I've learned a lot from Ryan's LinkedIn as well. It's you've got a lot of great content there. So thank you so much, Ryan.